Hello and welcome everyone to Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. I am your host, Nina Joshi. Two quick announcements before we bring on our guest for today. We have our February symposium coming up next week, so make sure you join for that event. And we also have our HitLab Innovators Summit in May in person in New York City, and tickets are also available using the link or the QR code to learn more. And with that, we'd like to formally introduce our guest for today, Ariana McGee, who is the founder and CEO of Navigate Maternity. As you know, we love questions here at Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. So if you have any for Ariana during the conversation, please use the chat or the Q&A feature, and I will make sure that we get to it. With that, thank you so much for being here, Ariana.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited.
I can't wait to learn more, not only about the company, but also about you. So maybe Ariana, a great place to start for myself and for our audience would be if you could just tell us a little bit more about your journey. What has kind of led you to where you are right now as the founder and CEO of Navigate?
Yeah, definitely a great question, Nina. Navigate Maternity is a tech-enabled medical device company, and our focus is on improving maternal health outcomes. But I started the company out of my own experience. So I am a mom of four. My husband and I have a 6-year-old, a 5-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So yeah, lots of babies very quickly. Yeah, it was kind of crazy for a minute there. But it was my experience being pregnant during COVID with our third child after
Mm,
being a two-time C-section mom and being deemed high risk, and then having all of my extra touches essentially ended and turned into virtual Zoom calls. Actually, not much different than what we're doing now. That led me to say, wait, we have no data on moms, and if something was really wrong, no one would ever know. And then fast forward, when I was pregnant with our fourth, I almost died in childbirth.
oh no.
Encountered a very tired on-call doc who tried to send me home. I had to plead with her. Thank goodness my mother was with me, but we essentially had to really advocate for me to have the appropriate care. And thank goodness that we did, because when my doctor was finally notified and she came in and she took me back to the operating room, she opened me up and uncovered that I had a uterine window. So had I not done that, had my mom and I not advocated on my behalf, I would have gone home, continued to contract, and my uterus would have ruptured and I would have died and my daughter would have died. And so that was really the catalyst to say, not only do moms deserve better, but we have to do it now.
100%. Wow. So this is, this is personal for you. And I can only imagine it, this story is so personal, but I'm sure so many women are experiencing exactly what you've experienced. So I can definitely see how, that really was like this turning point. And kind of for Navigate, I'm so curious, especially when you kind of think about the journey into like healthcare, but also you had mentioned like the tech aspect of it. Would love if you could share a little bit more about just the platform itself, and kind of how you're leveraging both of these kind of components to build something.
Yeah, definitely. So one of the things that we identified, my team and I, really not only because of my own personal experience, but in addition to that, I've actually worked in healthcare for around 13 years. So I've worked in pharma, medical device, all the way from sales, all the way up to heading an entire US market access function. So having that expertise, I understood the mechanisms of how you launch
Right.
or commercialized devices. And so one of the gaps that I identified with my team was that we needed not just a tech component, because that is important because you need to be able to capture the data, but we needed something that would be scalable. So we needed a
Mm,
device, and a device too that would actually be accurate in capturing the data, right? So clean
right.
data in and clean data out. And so how we created Navigate, and our focus was on hypertension because this was one of the root causes of a lot of the kind of cascade of issues. We said, okay, we need a wearable. That was our first thing. Like, we've got to find a wearable. And then we started to really kind of dive in, and we uncovered that there were so many limitations with the current wearables that are on the market. Many of them are
Mm,
sensor based. One of the things about sensors is that, and this was actually something that happened last year with the FDA, was that they're light based sensors, and most of them do not read accurately on dark skin, and most of the
mm,
world has dark skin. So
yeah.
that was a limitation we saw with the pulse oxes. So we were like, okay, well, we want to get to market quicker. So okay, let's pivot. So then we went and we identified a blood pressure cuff that was actually indicated and validated for use in pregnant, preeclamptic, and postpartum women. And that's what we
Interesting.
have. So our device is validated for this patient population. It's accurate, and then it
Mhm.
connects with our app. That's not just an app, but it actually is an electronic medical record system. So it's an app, but it's on a certified EHR backend. So this data can connect easily, compliantly, securely with Epic and
Mhm.
Cerner.
Wow, that's incredible. And it's amazing that I also did not know that about kind of the current state of wearables in the market. And I think having to like build your own solution, I think is oftentimes the way to go about doing something, which is what you did. And it's also incredible to see, to Ariana, how your past just experience being in the healthcare industry has already kind of given you, this really incredible framework. So you kind of knew where to double click and hone in on, it seems, which I think is really incredible. Wanted to ask a little bit more because I feel like there's you bring up a really good point around, I think, COVID and data and how it kind of created this environment rather than that we wanted it to really be this like mass data adoption and tech adoption environment. Would love if you can learn a little bit more or share a little bit more about kind of how you're seeing just tech being or wearables being used and being adopted in your users or just more broadly, and kind of what that's been looking like kind of in this post-COVID world.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think in terms of just technology as a whole, from an adoption standpoint, we've seen quite a bit of an uptick, right? Like,
Mhm.
patients, clinicians, everyone wants more data because COVID really taught us that, hey, if I can't touch you, I still need a way to understand what's happening with you. I think one of the barriers to that has been around reimbursement, right? So,
Right,
one of the things that we again had to think about was that how could we make this scalable, because we understand again a lot of the wearables are right now consumer products, right? They don't necessarily have coding coverage payment,
right.
and if you don't have that, then it becomes very difficult um, to get kind of past those early adopters. So
Mhm.
for us, that's why we went the route that we did with, a cuff that is, can still be, considered under the current umbrella of what's available for coding coverage payment, but also had a different IFU, a more accurate indication, so that we can have better data.
Oh, I like
And
that.
hopefully that answered your
No, it
question.
did. Yeah, definitely. I think it does. You are right. It speaks to kind of maybe some of the strides that have been made as it relates to just more people using it or just being aware of it because of COVID. But there's still, I think, a lot of gaps that you were talking about just operationally, when
Mhm.
it comes to some of these things like billing of how do we actually get it to the masses in a way that's sustainable. So it's great that it seems like that's definitely something that is very top of mind for you as you're building and continuing to work on Navigate. I'm also very curious too around, I feel like, when we think about data, it's something that's so prolific now. But those types of solutions. But I think there's also this increased need for personalization for things that are, that feel like it's personal to you, whether it's more like culturally sensitive or just aware of your own body. How do you kind of balance the need for like personalization, but also for data-driven solutions that can sometimes tend to feel a bit more generalized, just where they are in the market right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that you do that is you gather qualitative data, right? So
Mhm.
you're not, everything can't be quantitative.
Right.
So, our app captures all types of quantitative data, right? We find out about the mom's, housing. We understand a mom's mental health. We
Mhm.
understand a mom's social determinants of health status. And all these are quantitative data points. But the other piece, I think, to your point, to have that more kind of personalized touch is understanding the qualitative. Are we checking in with mom? We have patient navigators. So our patient navigators actually talk to the mom. So something that you may not get out of a questionnaire, you'll get from a conversation, right?
Mhm.
I think that's such a missed point in this healthcare and tech piece, is that often we're not engaging the communities that we're looking to use our products. And so that
Mhm.
creates an opportunity for us. And again, that's a focus here at Navigate. It's a for us by us kind of deal.
I love that. And you bring up a really good point too around it doesn't have to be an either or situation. It really is like, let's find the best of all of these different approaches to create something holistic. So I think that's absolutely incredible. And on that note, Ariana, because I know you have all of the stats, all of the information, would love if you could share with us because you have not only your own real world data, but I'm sure just being in this industry for so long, you've probably seen so much too of what role do you see data playing in reducing maternal health disparities? I would say specifically in underserved communities, whether it is geographically, whether it's, so like socioeconomic status, all of these different levers. How do you really see data kind of being this glue, this bridge to reducing disparity?
Yeah, definitely. I think, so to your point, there is a lot of data that is out there. I think the gap that, for instance, Navigate's focused on is that we're focused on not just having the data, but making it actionable, right? So meaning that we identify that a mom has a elevated blood pressure reading plus symptoms. Now we're making it actionable for her and for her care team. We identify that a mom has an issue with housing, and our patient navigators now care coordinate for her to get a housing voucher. So it's no longer just data for data's sake, but it's
Right.
actually personalized patient level data that now becomes actionable. I think that makes the difference.
100%. I think that's such a good point to bring up too, because I think there is kind of this misnomer that data is just like existing and it's passive and it's just always on and just like the machine that keeps on going. But it seems that there's really like targeted approaches to the navigators and some of these other aspects. And I think on that note, Ariana, I'm so curious. Can you share a little bit more about what you've seen as like the power of having a navigator or just kind of what that role has kind of done and shaped with Navigate Maternity?
Yeah, definitely. I actually have a pretty good use case of
Ooh.
how powerful a patient navigator is. So, we had a beta testing program that we ran throughout the state of Indiana. Well, one particular case, it kind of really stands out. So, we had a mom who was assigned our 360 kit, which is essentially our kit that includes our validated cuff, our scale, the patient app, and then that back end portal for the physician to manage. And this mom, pretty much without incident went through her pregnancy, went in, gave birth, and then postpartum, we started to notice about 5 days postpartum that her weight was increasing like very quickly, very quickly. And her blood pressure wasn't quite severe, but it was elevated. And so our patient navigator, caught it first alongside our platform and reached out to her doctor to say, hey, I think that we got to take a look at this patient. The doctor didn't like where the numbers had been trending. She brought that patient in. That patient was diagnosed with acute heart failure. She was not
Oh my,
due to be seen for another 5 weeks. So
wow.
those are, I think that demonstrates that yes, our platform definitely was identifying that these trends were abnormal, but our patient navigator, who has a background in public health, who has a PhD no less, she was like,
Mhm.
wait, like this is not trending the right way. Let me get the appropriate stakeholders here so that we can intervene, and
That
we got to the right outcome.
Wow. And that is number one, wow, just what an incredible story. That kind of speaks to the power of not only, having someone that is in your corner, that is that navigator, but also kind of being an advocate too,
Mhm.
which I think is so important. And Ariana, as you were just kind of describing it, what you were experiencing, it's kind of interesting because I feel like sometimes when you are a physician or kind of sitting in like the healthcare realm, all you see is just the view of the patient when they're in your exam room, when they're just like, that's the only view of them that you get. But it seems, with Navigate Maternity and a lot of these other like tech-enabled solutions, you get to see all of it. Um,
Yeah,
so I'm so
exactly.
curious, are there any other like insights or trends or observations that you've seen, like any maybe challenges that physicians or others may not even be aware of that you kind of have been seeing with your patients?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think you kind of hit on it, really. It's really around the fact that our current, care protocol for moms really is around these kind of snapshots, right? And
Mhm.
these snapshots are just that. They're a snapshot in time. And once mom leaves that office, you don't know if between appointment one and appointment two, her pressures have been her pressure has been out of control for two weeks. Like you just don't know. And then often one of the other pieces is that even when you have a mom that is monitoring herself with a blood pressure cuff, maybe one that she got at Amazon or Walmart, often these devices are not validated. So the
Mhm.
readings are not accurate. There was actually a really good study, or excuse me, a really good article rather, about a mom that passed away who had a blood pressure cuff, but the blood pressure cuff was not accurate.
Oh,
And
wow.
so those kind of stories demonstrate why we have to have validated devices that have been well studied, well established within this patient population, because it could mean the difference between life and death. And so that's been one of the things, I'll be frank, as we've gone out and talked to different docs, they're like, I didn't even know that. Right. Like this
Hmm.
isn't something that is, just kind of known from an OB/GYN perspective. So it's been great because as soon as we've kind of explained to docs and we've, demonstrated the data or shown the data, and they're like, okay, this makes 1,000% sense, and they've been bought in. So
Wow. I mean, just the efficacy of the technology. I mean, that in and of itself, like when you were saying that to me, I was like, oh, I didn't even know that also because there is kind of like an association or just an expectation that if you're getting a blood pressure cuff or a scale or something that it's going to do what you want it to
good
do.
work. Hmm.
But you bring up a very good point about not all of these technologies kind of are, validated or created with a specific use case in mind. And so having that like that extra layer of touch to know that what you are using is actually meant for you, I'm sure can be
Hmm.
so just comforting for a patient.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
I love that. You also brought up something to Ariana when you were telling that story about the about postpartum. And I'm so curious too, because that, everyone I think calls it like the fourth trimester. It's also such a really important time. Can you share a little bit
Yes.
more about kind of how Navigate Maternity is kind of supporting moms during the postpartum aspect of their journey?
Yes. So one of the ways that we help to, or actually some of the few ways that we help to support moms is that, we encourage moms to continue to self-monitor well into
Mm,
the postpartum period. So it's not just something that you get while being pregnant, it's something that you continue using even after pregnancy, just as we kind of outlined that use case. That was a postpartum mom. Additionally, one of the things we're actually launching coming up here in Q2, we're super excited. We are actually launching breast pumps, compression garments. And so
wow.
so we were like, you know what? We had this really patients were saying, okay, well, I'm on Navigate, but now I've got a need for this. I have a need for this. How can Navigate continue to support them? And so these are the ways. So well into the postpartum period, we will support moms with devices, breastfeeding, lactation, consulting, and then compression. So really kind of that full journey Navigate's there with you.
That's incredible. And it's actually a great segue because I was also so curious to learn more. I mean, you've done such a great job of just walking us through kind of the platform, the solution, really what you have already been working on. But now I'm just so curious, Ariana, what do you see as the vision for Navigate Maternity? What are would love to learn more about how you're thinking of the future.
Definitely. I think for our team, we see Navigate as being that trusted partner in women's health. We are a women-led company, which is frankly uncommon in the space. And we want women to know that when their doc signs that order form to get them enrolled into our program, and we get moms pretty early because if a mom has risk factors for hypertension, we may get mom at her first or second appointment. And so from the time that you get enrolled, you get that dedicated patient navigator, you're getting your hypertension kit, your hypertension kind of really like a program around you. And then we're going to keep supporting mom throughout that entire journey. So I think the vision for us is that we want to become that trusted partner in women's health.
Absolutely. I love that. And I think already seeing just like the level of support that you have, not only from the technology, but also from the navigators, the advocates, I can 100% see that vision. So I think that's absolutely beautiful. We spent so much time talking about your role as this incredible CEO, but now, of course, I have to ask you about just being a founder. For folks on the call who are also founders kind of in this space right now, how has it been just kind of being a founder, especially kind of, founding this company post-COVID? Are there any particular insights or challenges that you've kind of overcome that you would like to share with maybe some other folks that are also founders on the call?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always challenges. I think the the journey of a founder is one of accepting that there are going to be challenges. There'll be setbacks. You have to learn how to be a ballerina and how to pivot very
Mhm.
quickly. And so I think the biggest thing I could say is that you just want to keep going. You want to build a really great team. I think I couldn't do this without them. It's definitely a team effort, and people that are just as passionate and committed to the mission as you are. And so I think once you have those kind of that agile thinking, you have a great team, you just keep going. I mean, one of the challenges that we came across was around funding, as many of us do, right? Around fundraising. And we started fundraising at a time where also the market had taken a turn. So, I mean, it was really tough. And we did raise successfully a angel, kind of family and friends round. But then when we went to institutional, it was like folks were like, well, maybe,
Mhm.
and it took a while. Now we are VC backed now. We're part of that 0.04% of Black founders that are VC backed. But it was excruciatingly painful to talk to VCs and get them on board with what you were trying to do, even though there is a market for it.
Yeah.
So I think to any founder that may be kind of running against that, or they're maybe trying to raise, I would just say, don't focus on VC. Don't
Mm,
focus
yeah.
on your customers. Focus on hitting the milestones because VC will come. Oh, they always come and they'll come back.
Yeah.
But you can't spend all of your time, especially, frankly, if you are a non-traditional founder, if you're a woman or you're a person of color, the numbers are not in our favor. And so you've got to be able to focus on your business. And as your business grows and you get post-rev, and the VCs will come back
That's
and you'll be shocked.
incredible.
The money will come. I'm sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, no, I was gonna say that's just incredible advice. Thank you for sharing that. That's really, really good advice. And so now we, of course, have some questions from our audience. So I'll kind of go through so that we can get some of these questions answered. So one of our questions for you, Ariana, is how/where do you sell your sensor?
So we actually have a kit. So our
Mm,
kit is sold primarily through getting an order form. So clinicians submit the order form. We fill that order. So we fill that kit. We either drop ship it or there's a stock closet and mom gets her Navigate kit. And then we bill the payer for it. So
got
that's
it.
kind of how things work. So the nice thing about it is that it costs nothing to the mom and it costs nothing to the clinician or health system. The payer pays.
Love that. Perfect. We have another question that is the backend your EHR, or are you using like another vendor or partner for an EHR?
Yeah, so we've actually partnered with a strategic. It's not, I know, I can't remember what's the name of the one company a lot of people use, but we have a strategic that we have a partner with, or an investor also. So we have a partnership with them and we actually created our own in collaboration with them. So it is a Navigate owned, IP owned entity, but we do partner with the company.
I love that. That's incredible. So we have another question that says, this seems to be a great example of the tech/human combination. Could you speculate on the proportion of the value tech versus human contribution? Is it 50/50 or is it kind of like skewed specifically?
Yeah, I think it just varies. I think it varies by the patient and by the
Mm,
accounts, right? Because some accounts may have low risk moms and the tech is being able to say, okay, hey, out of this patient population or this account, we only have a few that are high risk. And so it's stratifying the data.
right.
And so the tech is great. But in those cases where we're getting like where we have high acuity patients, then we do that patient navigator is imperative. While our system does stratify data, you still do need those eyes
For
who can
sure.
be able to interpret the data in such a way
100.
that helps to empower the care team.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it is kind of like this bespoke kind of combination or formula just to
Exactly.
for sure.
Yeah,
I love
100%.
Awesome. Well, I know we're close to time, so I kind of want to end, Ariana, with one of my favorite questions to ask on Women's Health Tech Wednesdays, which is if you would just have any words of wisdom to kind of share with the group. You have been, core in just the broader healthcare industry. You're a founder, you're a CEO. You've worn all of these different hats. So as you reflect on your career, if there's any just words of wisdom, just general career advice that you can share with us, we would love that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think what I have, especially now in this climate, is just to continue going. Like women still need women. We need women's health. We needed to have focus on it. And what I would just tell any kind of innovator or founder within this space is to not be swayed by everything that's in like the news, but to keep doing the work because women
Mm,
need us more than ever to continue doing the work. So that would be my kind of word of wisdom. And when things are hard and they're going to get hard, just keep going. Like when it feels like, oh, this is it. Nope, just keep going and you'll be shocked at the breakthrough that's on the other side.
I love that. And I think just your advice of just kind of blocking out the noise, I feel like just in general sounds like great advice. So
Yeah.
100% going to hold on to that. And for we are actually still kind of getting some questions, and I know we're close to time. We may not have the time to talk about this live, but Ariana's LinkedIn is in the chat. So if you have any questions for Ariana specifically, feel free to go to the chat. And I think if anything, this is just also even more of a sign that we need you back for a part two. Once you get that the breast pump and the compression stuff, would love to learn more about how that's been going and some of the insights that you see from that. So we'll definitely need to have you back.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Nina. I really appreciate our time together today.
Me too. Thank you so much, Ariana, for just enlightening us and sharing all of the incredible work that you're doing. Make sure you join us next time for our next Women's Health Tech Wednesdays. Wanted to thank our sponsors for sponsoring this incredible conversation, as well as one last huge shout out to Ariana for just all of the incredible work that she's doing. And we will see you all next Wednesday. Bye, everyone.